Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tip. My name is Julian, and this is the episode about the New York Rangers, continuing that series of videos that I've been making, talking about the team, their potential lines for next year, and each of their noteworthy players, and whether I think you should draft them at their current ADP. Before we jump into this one, guys, please leave a like and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. More than half of you guys are not subscribed, so if you're not subscribed, please consider doing so. Okay, let's jump into it now, and let's start with the Rangers lines. On the top line, I'm projecting Kreider, Zibanejad, and Kaapo Kakko. On the second line, Artemi Panarin, Trocheck, and Wheeler. On the third line, Lafreniere, Chytil, and Goodrow. Now, their player with the highest ADP is Igor Shesterkin with an ADP of 14.7, which is the highest goaltender ADP. In my opinion, he's going way too high, guys. Unless you're in a league that, goalies are absolute king in your league, and even then, I probably wouldn't be drafting Igor Shesterkin. Yes, he's one of the best goalies in the league, but that ADP, you can get such an amazing forward. You can get some pretty good goalies later in the draft, and I really don't advocate drafting goalies this early in drafts. Definitely stay away from Igor Shesterkin, in my opinion. And then I have Mika Zibanejad at ADP of 26. And that's exactly where I have Mika Zibanejad ranked, if you've seen my rankings video. So I think it's a pretty good ranking for him, and I think you're getting pretty good value at drafting him at number 26. The next lowest ADP is Adam Fox, an ADP of 35.9. 72 points in 82 games, so on the surface, looks like he's amazing. And he is an amazing defenseman. Just fantasy-wise, he's not as amazing as people think. This is the second highest ADP for a defenseman. And honestly, guys, Adam Fox's peripherals are not very good. They're just not. And that's why I have him as my number 9 ranked defenseman if you look at my defenseman ranking videos. And this ADP is just way too high for Adam Fox. If you waste a pick this high on Adam Fox, you are really not getting a lot of value for that pick. Next I have Artemi Panarin, and on the surface, 92 points in 82 games. Looks pretty good for Artemi Panarin, right? With an ADP of 36.3, actually he's really not good value at all because peripherals are non-existent. He doesn't shoot that much, and that's why Panarin is not very high in my ranking. He's actually my 50th ranked forward, not player, forward, and his ADP is 36 out of all players. That is very bad value. Do not draft Panarin, not even close to his current ADP. Then I have Chris Kreider going at ADP of 73.4, and I think that's a pretty good spot for him to be going right now. Honestly, it may even be a little bit of a value pick. He's a late 6th round in a 12-team league or a 5th round in a 16-team league, which is pretty much in line with how he finished last year, and I'm expecting a pretty similar season, if not a little bit better than last year, from Chris Kreider. Then Vincent Trocheck was a top 100 player in leagues with hits, almost a top 75 player. He was that good, and in non-hits, he was just outside the top 100. He's really good value here, guys. He's probably going to be a top 100 or so player, no matter what kind of league you're in here. And he's going to be top power play with a bunch of studs in New York. Trocheck has some really good value. Moving on to Jacob Trouba at an ADP of 127.4. Jacob Trouba is one of the safest picks that you can make in a league with hits and other peripherals. He's a lock for about 30 points at least, and really nice peripherals all across the board. That means shots, hits, and blocks. He'll finish around 100th to 120th in leagues with hits and blocks. In leagues with no hits but blocks, he'll finish closer to the 200 mark. So I like him a lot in leagues with lots of peripherals. Keandre Miller, it was nice to see him do so well last year with very little power play time. He's an absolute stud who also has pretty decent peripherals. I'm expecting him to finish around the 200 mark in most types of leagues, but if he has a similar season to last year, could finish a little bit higher than that. His ADP to me is not too bad. I mean, there's not that many great defensemen going around that area, so if you do want to draft him, I don't mind it. He's definitely a pretty safe floor, but he's definitely not the most exciting defenseman in the world to be drafting. And then there's Blake Wheeler, who's a nice addition to the Rangers' top 6. Obviously, they needed a right winger, right, for that top 6. And Wheeler, honestly, pretty good signing. I'm expecting him to have a nice year in New York's top 6. He won't get power play one time in all likelihood unless there's an injury, which does lower the ceiling. But I believe his floor is pretty similar to last year, where he scored 55 points and finished as about the 200th best fantasy player. So if you do take him super late in your draft, not too bad, honestly. And he's going to be playing probably with Trocheck and Panarin or with Zibanejad. So definitely good line mates Not too worried about Blake Wheeler. If you want to take him super late in the draft, I definitely don't think it's a bad move. Then I have Filip Chytil, who doesn't really have an ADP right now, and he actually had a pretty nice year last year, finishing in the top 175 players in most leagues. I'm expecting him to put up another pretty decent season, despite being still relegated to a third-line center role. I think this finally may be the year where Alexis Lafreniere breaks out as well, so that kind of breakout could help with Chytil's value. It's going to be interesting to see because it's hard to really convince yourself to draft a third-line center. Personally, I won't be drafting Chytil, but with the kind of upside that he had last year and potentially with Alexis Lafreniere breakout, there's definitely some upside there. So if you're in a deep league, definitely wouldn't be against drafting Chytil. And like I mentioned, this year might be finally the year where Alexis Lafreniere breaks out. He's going super late in draft, so you can get him with like a last or second to last round pick. If you haven't taken too many risks in your draft, why not? Why not? What if this is the year that he breaks out? It might be worth throwing a late pick at him. Worst case, you end up dropping him in the first couple weeks of the season anyway. No big deal. You're not really wasting too high of a pick on him anyway, so that's not a big deal at all. And then finally, Kaapo Kakko, and I'm not really touching Kaapo Kakko for fantasy purposes. Even though I have him projected to be on the first line right now, he hasn't really ever given me a reason to want him on my fantasy team other than maybe a streamer where the Rangers have a really favorable week. Kaapo Kakko, if I start seeing him produce on the first, second line, then maybe I'll consider it. But as of right now, I'm not touching him. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. If you enjoyed the content today, please leave a like and hit that subscribe button if you guys haven't already. Hope you enjoyed my Rangers video today, guys, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.